Hey everybody, Shawn Tubbs here with Revv. I hope you're doing well. Today we are talking about using attenuators. Of course they work. They turn things down. But are they always necessary, really? And this is really not so much to talk about good attenuators and not so good attenuators or anything like that. I'm really wanting to dive into just the use of an attenuator overall. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how an attenuator sounds with power amp breakup and when you have to turn down your amp, but the majority of your overdrive is coming from the power section. We'll look at that and how that sounds to use an attenuator as opposed to using a master volume. And then we'll look at a channel gain amp with a master volume and how that compares to turning down the master on the amp because you're not using the power section for overdrive. It's all from the preamp, as opposed to turning it down with an attenuator. There's difference in feel. It's kind of hard for this to all translate over like an iPhone or laptop speakers. So if you can, put in some in-ears or use studio monitors. Let's just check it out. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm running my Revv 740. It's a 40 watt amp, but it's still really loud, especially for playing at home. It can be really, really loud. It is a master volume amp, but the way I'm going to explain this is I really like the green channel. Now the green channel, you can get gain out of the channel, but the way I like to use it is to get the power amp to break up. And that's where the attenuator to master volume comparison will really come into play. We'll check that out, and then I'll switch to channel 2, which is way more of a channel gain type of thing. There's very little power tube breakup. Now I could dial it to do that, but I'm purposely dialing it so that it's more of a preamp channel breakup as opposed to breaking up the power section. And then we'll do the same comparison, turning down the master as compared to just turning down, obviously, on an attenuator. So here we go. Let's start with the green channel. Here's the tone I have dialed up. It's kind of a low gain. Now that sounds really good, but it's very loud. Now I can turn down my master volume, but here's what happens. I'll just turn it down. Let's try it about right there. It's quieter, but I'm losing gain now because I'm not hitting that power section. So at that point, that still actually sounds really great, but I'd have to start using pedals to get that type of tone with the amp turned down. Whereas about right there, that sounds great. So that's where maybe an attenuator would come into play. So check it out. I'll try to get it to about the same level. So that's really quiet. That's about where I had it. Now it is a little bit darker, but my gain is still there. Now worst case scenario, I would just turn up the treble just a little bit on the amp, and that still sounds good. So to me, that's where an attenuator would be a lot of help because it's just so much power amp breakup there. And you want the feel, you want those tubes cooking. So let me go back to full volume again. So if I turn it down, I'm losing gain. So that's what's happening there. I might lean towards an attenuator, honestly. Okay, let's switch to the second channel. I've got that one dialed up for way more gain, and it's much more preamp gain than power amp. The majority of that, or I should say all of it, is from the channel as far as the overdrive. So if I needed to turn that down via the master, most of my overdrive is still there. And it still sounds good to me. Same scenario. I might turn up the treble just a little bit to compensate. Not the end of the world, still sounds good. So that's a lot softer. Let me put it back to about where it was. About right there, and let's try attenuating. So that's about the same volume there. So in this case, it's kind of a draw for me. It gets a little bit darker. Just turn up the treble a little bit. It feels better because we're still, even though the power section isn't wide open on this, we've still got it cooking. So that amp sag is there, especially from 6v6 tubes. So all the way back up, no attenuation. Let me turn it down here. Okay, now this is just my opinion, and honestly, the best way to listen to this is to use in-ears so you can really hear what's going on. I think, and this is my opinion, when I'm using more channel gain, I'm going to be more apt to be okay with turning down my my master volume, honestly, and just compensating, because to me, that still sounds really great. You know, so it just depends on what you want to do, because, you know, attenuators, good ones, can be expensive. So in my case, if I was just doing channel gain like that, I might lean towards using the master volume on my amp, depending on the amplifier, of course. On the other side of that spectrum, though, as I showed you, I would be way more apt to use an attenuator when I'm doing more power amp style breakup like I did on the green channel. I realize this is to each his own, and you know, the comparison on actual attenuators can get pretty broad as far as which ones are better than others, and I don't want to go into that. I just wanted to look at it more from the aspect of, you know, power amp breakup, channel breakup. When you're attenuating, you know, is it worth it to you to attenuate your, you know, channel gain? You know, because there is a difference, and maybe it is, you know, important to you, especially, you know, for live settings. I think if you're going to attenuate to literally whisper volumes or bedroom volumes, I don't know that it's worth it to have an attenuator if you have a master volume amplifier and you're doing channel gain. So anyways, this is getting long-winded. That's what I'm hearing. That's how my mind works when it comes to this type of scenario. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching.